Note, when using Active Directory users and computers, not all property pages appear in the default view. You must enable advanced features in the View menu of Active Directory users and computers to see them. When you create a user account in ADDS, you also configure all the associated account properties. You must define the attributes that allow the user to sign in by using the account, in addition to a few other attributes. Because you can associate a user object with many attributes, it is important that you understand what these attributes are and how you can use them in your organization. You can configure user attributes by using Active Directory Administrative Center, Active Directory Users and Computers, Windows PowerShell, or the DS Mod tool. Note, the attributes associated with a user account are defined as part of the ADDS schema, which members of the schema admin security group can modify. The schema does not often change. However, introducing an enterprise-level program, such as Microsoft Exchange Server, requires many schema changes. These changes enable objects, including user objects, to have additional attributes. Attribute categories. The attributes of a user object fall into several broad categories. These categories appear in the navigation pane of the User Properties dialog box in Active Directory Administrative Center. Account. In addition to the user's username properties, first name, middle initial, last name, full name, and the user's various logon names, user UPN logon, user SAM account name logon, you can configure the following additional properties. Logon hours. This property defines when the user can use the account access domain computers. You can use the weekly calendar style view to define logon permitted hours and logon denied hours. Logon to. Use this property to define which computers a user can use to sign into the domain. Specify the computer's name and add it to a list of allowed computers. Account expires. This value is useful when you want to create temporary user accounts. For example, you might want to create user accounts for interns who will be at your organization for just 1 year. You can set the account expiration date in advance. No one can use the account after the expiration date until an administrator reconfigures it manually. User must change password at next logon. This property enables you to force users to reset their own password the next time they sign in. This is something you might enable after you reset a user's password. Smart card is required for interactive logon. This value resets the user's password to a complex, random sequence of characters and sets a property that requires that the user use a smart card to authenticate during logon. Password never expires. This is a property that you normally use with service accounts, that is, those accounts that services use and not regular users. By setting this value, you must remember to update the password manually on a periodic basis. However, the system does not force you to do this at a predetermined interval. Consequently, the account can never be locked out due to password expiration, a feature that is particularly important for service accounts. User cannot change password. You use this option generally for service accounts. Store password by using reversible encryption. This policy provides support for programs that use protocols that require knowledge of the user's password for authentication purposes. Storing passwords by using reversible encryption is essentially the same as storing plaintext versions of the passwords. For this reason, you should never enable this policy unless program requirements outweigh the need to protect password information. This policy is mandatory when you use Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol, CHAP, authentication through remote access or Internet Authentication Service, IAS. It is also mandatory when using Digest Authentication in Internet Information Services, IIS. Account is trusted for delegation. You can use this property to allow a service account to impersonate a standard user to access network resources on behalf of a user. Organization. This includes properties such as the user's display name, office, email address, various contact telephone numbers, managerial structure, department and organization names, addresses, and other properties. Member of. Use this section to define group memberships for the user. Password settings. This section includes password settings that apply directly to the user. Profile. Use this section to configure a location for the user's personal data, and to define a location in which to save the user's desktop profile when he or she logs out. Policy. Use authentication policies to control Kerberos ticket granting ticket, TGT, lifetimes, and the authentication access control for a specific account, such as high-level administrative accounts. Silo. Authentication policy silos are containers to which you can assign a user account. You can assign authentication policies to these silos. Extensions. This section exposes many additional user properties, most of which do not normally require manual configuration.